All right, hello everyone. Welcome to In the Freezone with Norm. Tonight we've got KC Higley with us here. KC Higley's the head wrestling coach at Stanton County High School. And Coach Higley, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing fine. Pretty hectic day at school today. For the most part, we had team pictures today, which is always kind of crazy
Yeah,
to kind of get those things organized. But after
coaches
that,
always hate picture day. Yeah,
yeah, I do. I love the outcomes of picture days. I love
hmm
seeing the outcomes of them. But yeah, trying to get them set up and organized is always a pain. It's like the kids act like they've never taken them before every time you do it.
that's the
Um,
truth.
but but yeah, no. So outside that, pretty good day.
Okay, so Coach, introduce yourself to everyone if you would, please.
All right. So, introduction to who I am. My name is KC Higley. I'm the head wrestling coach for the boys and girls wrestling teams at Stanton County High School, and the head wrestling coach for the boys and girls team at Stanton County Junior High.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
great.
the short introduction of who I am.
Yeah, there we go. Coach, you and I have talked a little bit about this, but I think it's a pretty interesting story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your path to becoming a coach? How it was that you became a teacher and a coach?
Yeah. So, it's kind of like I talked to you about. Like my path to becoming a teacher is kind of long and winding. Um, I grew up in a small town in western Kansas, about 14 miles from Nebraska, called Atwood, Kansas, and was a three-sport athlete up there: football, wrestling, and track. And then ended up playing football at Sterling College in
Right.
Sterling, Kansas.
hmm
When I was there at Sterling, I got injured, and instead of cutting my scholarship, the coaches allowed me to opportunity to be a general assistant and help out with the team in other ways. I learned like how to cut film and how to watch film, and it really
hmm
got me to like one of the benefits of actually doing that, looking back in kind of perspective, was I got to hang out with coaches when they were being coaches versus when they were coaching, if that makes sense, I
Yeah,
guess.
I it,
Um,
it does to me. Yes.
Yeah. Like, I wrote down in my notes, like I was able to go on recruiting trips. And when you
hmm
sit down with a college coach and you go on a recruiting trip with them and they ask you, it's like, hey, what'd you think about this guy? And you just look at a guy and you're like, well, I thought this and this. And then they kind of pick guys apart when they're looking at us. Oh, well, this is what I saw. This is what I saw. And those are things you don't even think about. And
hmm
when you're that young and you're kind of getting that older view. Um, on the off season, when I was at Sterling, I helped coach at junior high wrestling team at Sterling. They didn't even have a wrestling team at the time, so they actually had the coach in Nickerson. So I'd actually
hmm
pick up our kids and drive them over to Nickerson, and I'd coach wrestling over there in the off season. Um, After college, I was looking for a job as a social studies teacher in Kansas, but it was 2010, and so the
Right.
uh, teaching fields in Kansas kind of dried up.
Yeah.
Um,
What dried up was the money, Coach.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
So teaching opportunities in Kansas kind of dried up
Yeah.
at the time, and so I looked for teaching jobs elsewhere. A friend of
hmm
mine had convinced me to go on a mission trip over to China with him, and I actually ended up loving it. Uh, Came back to United States, went to my little sister's wedding, and then went back to China and ended up spending about the next six or 7 years there, something like that.
Wow.
Uh, when I was over there, met my wife and we got married. And then my wife and I had the ideas like, well, why don't you put on American football clinics? And so I started to put on American football clinics at and kind of English. They call them like English corners.
hmm
And so we got some footballs out and we taught like how to pass, punt, and kick, taught some Mongolians how to play American football, did flag football over there at some colleges of some high
Uh-huh.
school with some college kids and high school kids and middle school kids. And it was pretty fun. And so that was kind of my first experience, I guess, like
Uh-huh.
coaching as a head coach. I'm
Right.
air quote head coach in about 9,000 air quotes there. But that was kind of it.
Yeah.
That also got me introduced into Mongolian wrestling. And I ended up really liking Mongolian wrestling. There was a college next to my apartment living over there, and they had a bunch of Mongolian wrestlers over there, and they would go wrestle each other on a turf, like a soccer
Mhm.
pitch turf, with cement on the
Right.
bottom of it, and just rip each other to the ground. And I actually got to participate a couple times in that. It was pretty fun.
Mhm.
Um, got done coaching, or not got to coaching, got done teaching over in China, moved back to the United States. coached junior high and high school at a small school in Colorado, a 6-man football, ideally at Colorado, and then moved to Tribune. When I was in Tribune, I coached 8-man football and then 6-man football at Tribune, and that was fun and interesting. Coaching there, and then I also got to coach high school wrestling at Tribune for 1 year, and then I ended up taking a job down here in Johnson and coached 11-man football for 3 years, and then I resigned from coaching 11-man football last year after our season because I just felt passionate and a drive, and I just want to kind of focus in on wrestling, and I felt that I could put my passions towards that and say like, hey, like this is something I actually want to push forward to and try to develop a wrestling program down here in Johnson. And so that's what I pushed for.
That's great. And, that's something that it surprised me a little bit to hear that Johnson was adding wrestling, because we've been in this, in this state in the last few years where a lot of smaller schools are cutting sports like wrestling. Not many are adding them. So how did adding wrestling at Johnson come about?
Well, so I think there's several reasons why adding wrestling at Johnson kind of came about. One, we have a really good school board. The school board that we have, they want the kids to have as many opportunities as they possibly can. And so we have a school board, I think, down here that had open ears and were willing to hear the pitch, so I think that was probably the first and the most important thing. There, I think other things of why adding wrestling, especially down here in small schools, let's go back here. I think adding wrestling in Johnson also was a big thing because when they heard the pitch, we were able to show that there was already interest here. We have kids that had spent elementary school going to Colorado and wrestling at little kid leagues over in Colorado, like in Walsh, or they would go to Ulysses and wrestle over in Ulysses. One of the best wrestlers probably come out of the state of Kansas was a kid that grew up in Stanton County over in Big Bow and ended up going to Ulysses and played football and wrestled over there. And it was one of those things where, talking with his mom and talking with him, like him and I actually, we were acquaintances in high school. Like we knew each other, wrestled each other a couple times, but got to talk to him like afterwards. And he said one of the biggest reasons why he went to Ulysses was because they had wrestling. If Johnson would have had it, then he would have stayed here. And he ended up being like a national champion at Division II. So like he was pretty good wrestler. For University of Nebraska, Omaha. And so I think that was what we were able to show. And we were able to show hey, we have a grassroots program here. It's a fairly decent amount of kids that have done it and or have experience for it. Some of those kids currently aren't in the high school or have moved away, but they have done it in the past. So there was that grassroots there. So I think that was probably the number two thing. The third reason that is the school board also recognizes that while Johnson has a pretty large basketball team, it still has quite a number of kids that don't play basketball. And so it was one of those things of, what are we doing for those kids? How are we getting them active? I'm a firm believer that kids who are active have better grades.
Absolutely.
Everyone tries to portray and say, oh, there's this idea that you have these dumb jocks. And I don't know. I never saw it. Like I didn't see it in college. Like the guys that were like that in college, they drop out. They weren't even there. Like the guys that finish out,
actually, the statistics show that one of the better predictors of success in later life is participation in extracurriculars.
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's 100%. Like, so it was one of those things where we were able to sit there and show and say, hey, we have these kids who aren't doing anything. what if we gave them another option? And so that was where I just went out and I said, hey, like if we had wrestling, would you do it? Like you're not doing basketball, would you do this? And I was like, yeah, I do that. And then you have some kids that are like, well, I'd just do both. And okay, all right. So now we got kids that are dual sporting wrestling and basketball. And that sounds crazy to some schools, but they also forget, like down here, we have kids that dual sport volleyball and cross country and football. Like for our kids in small towns, like dual sporting is really nothing to them. So there was that. And then I think the fourth thing of why it kind of made sense for the program to kind of get developed was the state of Kansas sanctioning girls wrestling.
Yeah.
I think if I would have tried to just say, hey, this is going to be a boys team, or just introduce another boys team, then I think you're looking at Title IX stuff, and you're looking at it's like, well, okay, well, what girls sport are we going to add? But because Kansas had sanctioned girls wrestling, oh gosh, I want to say 2019.
I think that's right.
I think that's 2019.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Because it was sanctioned in that year, you had this thing where now you could just introduce a wrestling team and it's boys and girls. You got it both. Like you don't have to introduce you're not trying to find that other thing. And I think that was a big deciding factor too. And then it was like, okay, well, how many girls can we actually get out? And, like we still got some out. And we can still work and probably get some more out. And it's just going back, and it's like anything else, you just got to recruit. And that's, kind of my biggest thing I've been doing all year and all summer and everything else is just kind of recruiting. And right now, for the kids that have stuck it out and done it, like been to more than one practice, like they're all in. Like our wrestling team, we talk about being one of us, about being OOU, and those kids are OOU. They're one of us, and that's what's really cool about it.
Yeah, that's great. So, Coach, tell me a little bit about your team. How many do you have out? Are there any individuals that you'd like to point out?
So I'll talk about my team, I guess, in a couple different phases here. I guess I'll start from my smallest team, which would be my junior high boys. We got 4 junior high boys out. One of them has experience wrestling over at the kids club over in Ulysses. The other 3, or I guess 2 of them have experience over there. One has like 3 years of experience. The other one has 1 year of experience wrestling at the kids club over in Ulysses. The other 2 don't have any experience at all. But it's 3 7th graders and an 8th grader. We had our first tournament with them. One of our 7th graders ended up taking 4th, and the other ones wrestled hard and got better actually each match that they did. So I thought that was really good. Really good there. But next smallest group on my team is going to be my junior high girls. That's got 2 7th grade girls and 4 8th grade girls right now, and that's got some time to grow, I think, a little bit. But I think that's going to be a pretty decent team. One, it's a really fun group of girls. Like they're all pretty energetic and that. So I think that's what's going to make that fun, is just their energy feeding off each other is going to be fun there. And so I'm kind of looking out and highlighting like those dates on my calendar, because I think that's going to be a fun group of girls to coach, just because I enjoy teaching them in class. So pretty excited about that. My high school girls, I've got see here. I got 6 out on my high school girls. One of them's a dual sport athlete. So she's doing basketball and wrestling. And then we got a girl at 135, a girl at 155, a girl at 190, a girl at 170, and a girl at 235. And they're pretty raw. Like they don't have a lot of experience coming into it. One of my 190 pounder, she's done wrestling when she was younger, but it was one of those things where, because we didn't have wrestling over here when she got to be 5th grade, she stopped going to kids club because they didn't have wrestling here. So she didn't do it in 6th grade. She didn't do it in 7th grade. She didn't do it in 8th grade. And didn't do it as a 9th grader. All of a sudden now she's a sophomore and she's trying to pick it back up again. And so it's like, you have that time. Like, so she remembers things, but it's pretty rusty. Like, we're knocking the rust off of her. But we do got 2 senior girls, and I don't know how good they are, but I can tell you, when they walk out on the mat, they look the part. Like, maybe, and I think that's something. Like, when you see, you know, your 2 senior girls, when they walk out on the mat and they're like, you know, chest up, head up, and the confidence level coming off them, that confidence level brings down to the other girls on that mat as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really good, important thing there. So I got some pretty good senior leadership in my senior girls. I'm pretty happy with. My high school boys team, I think this is kind of surprising. I told some people this, how many guys we had out for a first year program. And I was like, we got 15 out. And a lot of coaches are like, 15 out on a first year program. And they're like, our program's been around since, you know, 1927, and we only got night guys out this year. It's like, how did you get 15 out? And I was like, well, hey, you just got to recruit them. You got to recruit them is what you got to do. And that's what I did. I went out and I recruited them. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I got 4 of them that are dual sporting, wrestling and basketball. So they're my dual sport athletes. And of those 4, not a single one of them has missed practice, except for being sick once. I've got 1 kid that missed practice because he was sick over Thanksgiving, and that was it. Other than that, those kids have been in practice every single time, the dual sport athletes. I've got just about every weight filled. I'm missing a 106-pounder and a 120-pounder is what I'm missing. But I got a 113, 126, 134, 144, 2 at 150, a 157, 2 at 165, 2 at 175, 190, a 215, and 2 285s. So, but we got 5 seniors, 5 seniors, 1 junior, 3 sophomores, and then 4 sophomores. Sorry. I always keep thinking this one kid's a sophomore, but he's not. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 freshmen. So pretty young team after you get past our junior, but it's just one of those things. Like, if I had to be excited about someone, like, just at a personal level, I'm really excited about our junior wrestler we got out. He's it's just one of those things, like you talk about, like evaluation of a guy. He was one of my favorite football players to coach when I was coaching here at Stanton, because he was one of those guys that he never tell you that he was a position. He never come up to you and be like, I'm going to be a running back, or I'm going to be a tight end, I'm going to be a tackle. He was that guy that you just sit there and say, hey, I need an offensive lineman. He's jumping in. He'll put on a jersey and be O-line for you. Or you need a fullback. He's putting on 22 and he's going to be your fullback. Oh, you need a tight end. Okay. He's tight end for you. You need a receiver. Okay. He's going to play wide receiver. He play any position you want to do on offense, defense, whatever it took. And you see that same type of drive and mentality come out on a wrestling mat. Like, he's out there attacking and pushing, and he's, giving up 40 pounds, but he's pushing our 215-pounder, and he's pushing our 190-pounder around on a mat. Like, he's out there just doing work. So we're really excited for him. And then I'm really excited for all of our seniors. You get a new sport coming in, and it's your senior year, and most seniors are like, they just want to do what's easy. And then you get a brand new sport coming in, and you're like, okay, hey, we got this brand new sport coming in. Do you guys want to come out and do this? And it's like, no, I don't think so. And then all of a sudden it's like, actually, yeah, I think so. I think I do want to do this. And so those guys coming out and deciding to do something difficult and hard, and they only get to do it difficult and hard for 1 year, but then putting in the amount of commitment they do for it, I think is important, especially for those younger classmen. Kind of builds up their confidence as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So Tell us a little bit about your schedule. I know you've already started with the junior high. I think I'm not sure about the high school, but
Yeah. So junior high has already started and is going to finish up tomorrow. The junior high boys, we're in a weird situation with our junior high because there's only 3 teams in our league that actually have wrestling. Wrestling's
right.
not considered to be a league sport.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, it just took us a while to kind of find our footing on what we wanted to do with our junior high teams.
Right.
Now, what I found is that a lot of teams have known that we have junior high students that can wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
I think next year it's going to be easier for us to kind of fill in our junior high schedule and get them some more matches. This year, we were only able to go to one tournament and then one, what they call a triple duel, quad
Mm-hmm.
duel or whatever it is. So
Right.
one of those. Next year, I think we're going to get some more invites to some of those smaller quad duels and those types of cowboy tournaments.
Yeah.
What they I guess is what they'd be called. So I'm pretty excited about that. Kind of moving forward on the junior high schedule side. The high school schedule, what I wanted to do was I tried to create a schedule that wasn't going to split our teams.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of teams right now are splitting um, their boys and girls. And so boys are going
Right.
one tournament, girls are going another.
Mm-hmm.
And because we're a new team, my assistant coach, she's pretty new to wrestling itself as well. Um, I felt that it was important that we stay together.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to feel like, hey, I I, I don't know, like I guess it would have felt wrong if I would have split those girls up and said, "Hey, I want to go with these boys, and I want to split these." Even though I have 5 girls, I'm going to split these 5 girls up, and you're going to go to this tournament. I'm not going to go with you. It's like, no, I'm
Right.
those girls as head coach too. I want to be there and watch
Yeah.
them. I want to be in their success. So I put our schedule together where we're going to go in the same places.
Mm-hmm.
So our first tournament for high school is actually going to be in Waukene, Kansas. It's going to be an early morning wake up for us to kind of get there, but
Yeah.
our guys are used to it because we talk about dual sporting. We practice at 5:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell that to other coaches. They're like, "How do you get guys up at 5:30 to go in the morning?" And it's like, "Hey, like you just tell them like that's what you're going to do, and you say that's the only way we're going to do this." And so they wake up at 5:30 in the morning, and again, like almost no one misses.
Mm-hmm.
So they're there, they're dedicated to it, and they're going. So our first tournament we're going to go to is up in Waukene. After Waukene, we're going to come. I guess we're going to quote come home to Ulysses
Yeah.
for a pretty big tournament there. That's going to be a good tournament for us. I'm
Yeah.
pretty excited about that one. We're going to see some teams from Texas come into that tournament, and then we get some
Mm-hmm.
bigger teams. Garden City's going to send their girls team down there, and Garden City's girls team is really good, so
Right.
that'll get our girls some of that, some good competition. Uh, we'll go swing up to Goodland, Kansas, to finish off December on December 16th. That's a really good tournament up there. There's 20. I guess we're the 21st team up there in that tournament,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a really hard tournament to get up there too. You see, with that tournament, you're going to see Goodland, who's always a 4A top 10 wrestling team year after year after year. Like it's in their blood. But that tournament also brings in Colby, which is a top 3, top 4,
Mm-hmm.
4A wrestling team year and year. And after that, and then in the last couple years, Hoxie's been swinging over that tournament. And Hoxie is
Yeah.
a top 1 team. Like I said,
Uh-huh.
they're
Yeah.
a top 1, 2, or 3 team in the state of Kansas at 3, 2,
Mm-hmm.
1A every single year.
Yeah.
So you're going to see uh, you're going to see really good teams up there at that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Coming back from break, we'll go to Larnard on January 4th. After we go to Larnard, then we'll go to Scott City January 13th. January 19th, we'll head out to Cimarron. That's a Friday tournament for us. And then we'll go to Larnard again for a girls JV tournament.
Mm-hmm.
we'll take our varsity boys to that JV tournament probably, just because again we're all essentially first year wrestlers. We don't have any experience. It's like I don't know. Hopefully, it gives us a little bit of confidence. Like none of those are going to be able to do anything for us at state, like in placing and ranks for regionals, but it's going to be nice for those guys to again, like even with our guys wrestling the average JV guy, it's that JV guy probably has 4 more years of mat experience than we do.
Right.
But I'm excited about that Larned tournament. That's a good tournament to get into. McPherson sends their girls down there. Newton sends their girls down there. That's a pretty big tournament. Some bigger schools from back east. So our girls are going to see some good competition down there. Then we got a scramble tournament with Leota on February 1st, and our JV girls, our junior high girls, will actually go up there to that tournament with us. Then regionals, the 9th and 10th of February. Boys regionals is the 16th and 17th of February, and then boys and girls state is in Salina the following week. It's a 3-day event now, the 22nd through the 24th. So it's I think I don't know if I like that better or worse. The way they did have it scheduled out, it was like a 4-day thing, but now they've kind of combined them all in one spot. It's down to a 3-day thing, which is still long, but not nearly as long. So that's kind of our schedule where we're at.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that sounds like a great schedule, Coach, especially for the first year.
I'm sorry, Coach. We were talking about like schedules a little bit. Like one of the things I always tell our kids is like in Kansas, most people look at wrestling and they'd say like, hey, you want to be in a smaller school, but that's just for wrestling, and that's just not true. Like small school wrestling in Kansas, like that's the mecca.
Yeah.
Like every like there's large schools that would love to wrestle Hoxie just so they know how they're actually going to do at their own state. Like that's the litmus test is you go wrestle in some of these tournaments out here in Kansas, or you invite some of these smaller Kansas teams in, and bigger schools invite them in all the time. To do that. And so that's why I tell my guys all the time. It's like, listen, I was like, we're in the man's league out here, like in Western Kansas. Like you're going to see the best guys. Like there's no hiding from them. There's no running away from these guys. You're going to see them every single week. So best guys in the state are going to be at every tournament we're in. So.
Well, first of all, there's more potential athletes because you've got 3 classifications wrestling together. And I can tell you for sure that, that Western Regional and 3-2-1A wrestling is tough as it gets. Western or Northwestern and North Central is always, they're always tough wrestling teams in those areas.
Yeah. I remember, like when I was in high school, I lived up on Highway 36, and so you just knew, like, you knew who was making it out of regionals, and you only really had to follow 2 leagues. You just follow the Northwest Kansas League, and you just follow what was called the Mid-Continent League.
Yeah, the MCL, the Mid-Continent League. Yeah,
and you just follow those 2 league tournaments. And at the end of those 2 league tournaments, you looked at it and you say, okay, this kid from the Northwest Kansas League at that league tournament, he took first. And this kid at the MCL took second. They'll wrestle each other for first and second at state. And it was just, they're going to wrestle each other first and second at regionals. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why I tell kids, like, I think it's incredible just how much competition is there at that 3-2-1A level, and it's significant. Like it's really cool to kind of see that and kind of build it up.
Yeah.
So,
all right, Coach, is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, I hope. No, I think you let me kind of ramble on as much as I needed to.
Well, that's what we're here for.
I'm just really excited. Really excited for my team, really excited for my kids.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I wasn't for sure. It's like you get kids to say they're going to go out, they say they're going to go out, and then you just never know for sure. And so I had my junior high kids out, and I only had 6 of them out for junior high. And I was like, okay, I just don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know. I just don't know. And then that first day that we can have practice in November, I sit there and I was like, all right, I've been telling people I'm going to have 15 kids out for boys. I'm going to have all these girls out. All right, just waiting. And it was awesome. We did that first practice, and everyone that said they're going to be there was there. And then the next day, I had 2 new people show up and say that they want to do it. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be fun. And I got really excited.
Well, that's great, Coach. And we want to wish you luck on the season, and thank you for being with us this evening.
Yep.
And, I for those of you that don't know, I'm teaching at Stanton County now, and so Mr. Higley and I teach across the hall from each other. So I will get to talk to him tomorrow, but it's been great talking to you this evening, Coach.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being with us, everyone.
Yep. Thank you.